Hello, everyone. I'm North Hempstead Town Supervisor Judy Bosworth. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have embarked on creating a virtual exercise series for our senior residents. We partnered with our Project Independence fitness instructors to host these virtual classes, which will allow you to stay fit and healthy by participating from the safety of your home. Please enjoy.
Hello, with a gentle mat yoga. So I'm sitting on my mat, and it's called the easy seated posture with my legs crossed, so my feet are under the opposite knee. And I say easy because this can be very challenging for many people due to tightness in the lower back and hips. So this in itself takes practice to be able to sit like this. And the way to do it is just to breathe. Yoga, they say, is a breathing practice, foremost and most important. So we start with the breath. Focusing on your exhalation. That will create the relaxation to allow your body to open up to this for many people, to be such a difficult place. And next, let your eyes close. We're going to allow your palms to find each other in front of your chest. Just gently press the hands together. We're going to chant the sound Om 3 times. On your inhale, as you set your eyes open, let's bring our hands down. I'm bringing my hands slightly behind me. I lift my chest. I'm just going to fold forward from my hips. And you'll start to see more tightness, restriction. You may notice it in one side more than the other. And I'm going to come up, and I'm going to switch the crossing of my legs. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other leg in front. Again, you may feel differences. And that's the challenge of sitting on the floor. Tightness in our hips and back. Let's take our arms straight up. See how I'm taking them up shoulder height and then bringing them up over my head. Now the arms want to bend, and try to make the arms straight as we start. We'll start to heat the shoulder area up. Because we're going to have to come up to stand, and that's going to involve putting weight into our arms and shoulders. Let's lower the arms down. Which is good. You feel a little bit of work, a little bit of heat building in your shoulder. That's good. We want that to happen. Let's take the arms back up again. This time we're gonna add a little side bend. Let's bend side to side. See, I'm lengthening the space between my hip and my armpit, but the other side isn't collapsing. I'm lengthening out of both sides, and I'm gonna do that twice to each side. Oh, feels good, that tightness in the side body. You wanna relieve that. All this puts on stress into our breathing. These muscles restrict the breath, which I said was the most important thing. Take the arms up, and I'm going to take the arms straight down again. As we're going to change that movement of our shoulders, this time taking the arms around and up, coming right back to our arms over our head. But it's different now. Some people may even notice it might feel different. Taking your arms around as opposed to up in front of you. I'm going to take the arms around and down again, making a big circle. Taking a breath, exhale, and the next inhale, again, I'm taking the arms around and up. And we're going to add a twist to each side. I'm lengthening my spine up and turning and twisting. Just basic movements of our vertebrae, our spinal cord. I'm going to take the arms around and up and twist to the other side. I use my arms at the end, maybe to encourage a slightly deeper rotation. And I take my arms around and up, and exhale, lowering the arms down. Okay, I'm gonna come to lie on my belly to one of my favorite exercises. Not really, but it's very important. In yoga, we call it the Locust Pose. I press my legs down. I reach my arms back. I squeeze my legs together. I lift my shoulders up, strengthening the upper back, which will help prepare us for bearing weight on our hands, on our arms. This looks like really easy until you get here and you start doing these. As we're going to slowly build into doing a couple of these. A little bit harder each time. I'm going to lower down and turn my head to the side. Taking a little bit of a break, and I'm going to do it again. This time, I'm going to interlock my fingers behind my back. I lengthen my tailbone down. I lift my shoulders. Coming up a little higher, a little bit more intensity on my upper back. Notice I'm not lifting the head up. I want to keep my back of my neck long. And I'm going to lower down again, turn your head to the other side. And we are going to work our way up here very slowly. I'm going to bring my hands alongside my ribs. I want my hands underneath my elbows. I'm going to press into the hands. I lift my shoulders up. And then I'm going to lift my legs up, making this more challenging. And you can even make this even more challenging, just floating the hands up. And there's many ways to make this even harder. Just trying to be here and breathe. Lowering my hands down, putting a little bit more weight into my hands, and maybe lifting the arms and shoulders up higher. The chest and legs up higher. And I'm lowering down onto my forehead, touching down, I'm going to lift my shoulders up and lower down. This is coming into what's called a baby cobra. The legs are active. And I'm coming here, I'm going to come down and I'm going to press myself up like through a half push-up into the table pose. And we're going to add a couple more postures from here. I'm going to go into what's called the cat and cow. So as I inhale, I'm going to arch my spine. And then exhale, I round, and I call this the cat pose, like the Halloween cat. I'm going to do a couple of them. Inhale, exhale, cat pose. I'm going to bring my hips back. They call this the child's pose. And we're going to go through again into the cow pose, arching the spine. Exhale, rounding into the cat. I'm going to take a breath in, curl my toes in. I'll lift my hips up and back into an inverted V, that is down dog. Again, the weight is in the hands and shoulders, a little stress for them. So I'm not holding this for long right now. I'm just going to come back through the cat and cow into child's pose. And the next time we're coming up, we are coming up to stand. So I'm coming up, inhaling, cow, exhale, cat. I'm curling my toes in, downward facing dog pose, and I'm gonna walk my feet forward, my hands back. So I'm finding myself standing up what I feel is about the middle of the mat, setting up for our next pose. I'm gonna just hang over my thighs. I bend my knees, I interlock my elbows. I just hang here. My knees are nice and bendy. I'm just relaxing my legs. Everything fold over. I'm going to put, of course, the other arm that's on top this time. And then I come to stand. I'm going to bring my hands onto the hips. I lift my shoulders up first, so I'm coming up with a straight, flat back. Because I want to come into a place where my ears, shoulders, hips are in a line. I'm turned to the side like this, but I'm going to turn the other way. But I want to keep that same length, the same form in my spine. We're just going to come into take a wide step out, setting up for Warrior Two pose. Bringing my hands to the hips. My legs are firm. You can adjust the intensity of these poses. We're going to do a few poses, 2 poses from here. So I'm going to take my arms out to the side. Now my feet are not under my hand. I can see it from my angle here. I'm just going to make my feet a little wider. Now they are. That's going to make it a lot harder. So I'm going to bring my feet a little closer together. It's up to you how much. So I'm going to turn to your right. Let's turn to your right, taking your right leg out. Again, you see how my hips are up here. So if your shoulders bother you, keep your hands here and make sure that your front knee is over the ankle. And if your shoulders are okay, taking the arms up shoulder height. Making this harder, just step your back foot down, back a little bit. You see how my hips now are coming to the same height as my knee, much harder. So I'm adjusting it in just to adjust this posture for what I need. And we're going to move into another variation of this called side angle pose. I'm going to take my front hand onto my top of my leg, just above the knee. The other arm can come up over the shoulder, can come alongside the ear. It could even come onto your hip. It can, and there's other places, things you can do from this pose too. Finding the posture that's going to be right for you. For what you feel is appropriate intensity. And everybody, what's appropriate is different for everybody and changes every day. And I'm going to come back up to Warrior Two. See, I'm not pushing myself off the front leg, and I'm going to come up. I'm going to turn to center, and I'm going to do a gentle forward fold. I'm going to slide my hands down the legs. Maybe they come to the knees. In fact, let's come onto the knees. Make sure the back is flat, and then maybe slide the hands down deeper. Maybe you could even put your hands onto the floor. Maybe some people can actually even put their heads on the floor. Don't look for me to do that. I'm just going to realign my feet here. To come up again, I'm coming up. My back is flat. I bring my hands to the hips. I come all the way up, and I'm going to turn to the other side. Warrior Two, second side. We just stay in this position. You just and breathe. Again, the same as the other side, making sure the knee is over the ankle and your feet are appropriately spaced apart. Because if you go too far, you break your body down, you'll be really sore, and then you're not going to be able to practice for a day or two. I'm going to come into the second pose, my side angle, and the body will get stronger when you have the appropriate effort. Too much, I was saying, is no good, but also too little is no good. The hard part is to know which is too much and which is too little. And I'm coming back up to center. I'll parallel my feet, and we'll come back to the center point. We're going to do another posture, another basic standing pose is what I call them, called the triangle pose. This time, the legs are, I'll say, straight. Some people, straight is not very straight. Some people actually straighten their legs too much and can actually cause injury. You know, it's hard to tell from here. I can't see what you're doing. So making sure that you're going with not too much into things. I'm going to let's turn to the right. Again, my legs are straight. See, my legs actually have a little bit of a bend to them. That's about as straight as I can become. I'm going to take my arms out to the side, and I see I'm reaching out like I'm trying to touch the side wall. And I bring my hand down onto the shin. I look down, and I slide my hand down, but then I want to make this more challenging. I like to look up at my top hand. And just breathe. See, as I start to release and relax, my hand slides further and further down. That's why I say don't go deep right away. Let the body find where it's supposed to be. To come out, I use my legs. See, I'm not pushing off with my hand. I come up to center, and I'm going to go to the second side. If you want, you can keep your arms lifted to get more exercise. Or if you're tired, your shoulders get tight, hands onto the hips. And take a breath here, and you can join back in when you're ready. I'm going to triangle pose on my second side. I'm going to turn to the side. I take my arms out, and I reach out and down. See, my hand's not on the floor yet. I look down, I ground myself, and then I look up to see where my hand is, And I'm just sliding my hand down. If your shoulder bothers you, again, your hand can be on the hip, could be behind the back. If your hand is on your hip or behind your back, then look down at the floor, because you're supposed to look at your hand, but if it's not, if your hand isn't up there, you look down at the floor. And I'm going to come back up, parallel my feet, hands on the hips. We're going to do one more fold over. This time, I'm going to bring my hands out to the side and interlock my fingers behind my back. I arch my spine, stretching right down from my finger to the one finger through all my arms, my shoulders, and exhale, I'm folding over, bringing my head down towards the ground. And coming up, I lift with my shoulders first, coming all the way up. And my hands to the hips. I'm going to bring my heel toe, my feet in towards each other. I'm going to come to balance. I'm going to balance on one leg if you can. Again, I'm going to start off with the very basic. So I'm going to stand on one leg. So I'm going to shift my weight this way, taking my other leg up, turning it out to the side, so opening my inner thigh, my toes are on the ground, I bring my hand to prayer. So my legs are like in a little kickstand, like the kickstand on your bike. If this is too easy, you can slide your foot up the leg into the calf below your knee. If you want even more of a challenge, you can use your hand to help bring the foot into the thigh above the knee. We just don't want to press into your knee. So if you're here, that's bad, because you want to squeeze your legs together, creating the stability. And then maybe you could even take your arms up overhead. And when we're coming out, I'm going to come out the way I came in. Bring my hands down. Bring my leg to center. I just come back to stand. Yes, noticing feeling how one side of your body may feel a lot more challenged, a lot more alive than the other. When we finish both sides, we want to be about the same. So again, I'm shifting my weight to this side as I lift my opposite leg up. I started off with the kickstand variation. And then I'm going to challenge myself to come in deeper. I squeeze the legs together, actually, so I'm pressing my foot into the leg. The leg pushes back. That's why you don't push into the knee. Knees shouldn't have pressure side to side. And then you may want to challenge yourself a little more. Maybe you take your leg up above the knee. Maybe you just take your arms up. Maybe you find something in the middle, like you bring your foot down and take your arms up. Then maybe you bring your foot back up, finding the more difficult place. As you're going to find, moving is the challenge in balance. Once I find the position, it's easy to hold. But if you start moving around, it gets more challenging to balance. So if you want a more challenge to this, that's how you can do it. Okay, I'm coming out to stand and just observing, seeing the difference between one leg and the other. Hopefully we've done about the same on each leg. If not, You can stop the video and do the leg that doesn't feel like it did as much. Yes, you should have, because you're going to notice one leg is stronger than the other. Okay, I'm going to turn to the side again. And my profile, my ears, shoulders, hips are in line. I'm going to come to the front of my mat, and I'm going to step into a lunge. This is the more, supposed to be, I think it's just maybe it's a slight bit more difficult. I'm going to step my left leg back. The alternative is to step standing at the back of the mat and step the right leg forward. I'm going to lift my back heel. I bend the knee, my back knee, I bend the front knee, and I take my arms up into a high lunge. And I'm breathing. Just take a breath. And we're going to come into more lunges. We're going to put a few poses together here. I'm going to take my left hand down, and I'm going to take my right arm up, coming into really only our second twist of the day. Now I can put another twist in, but I'm going to take my hands down on the inside of my leg. I'm going to drop the back knee gently down, coming into our third lunge. And now just a deeper lunge. Yes, we're linking poses together. We're only, before we only did two. Now we're on our third pose on the same leg. I mean, it can get very complicated. You can put a dozen or more poses together. Puts more challenge into that one leg, which is also can be a little risky if you start to get fatigued. Because we want to, like I said, we want to push ourselves a little bit, as the body will get stronger if we do. But that can be too much. I'm going to come back to a table pose. And I'm going to come down onto my forearms, and I'm going to lift my legs up, coming into a forearm plank. Because everything we've done really mostly has been for our legs and our lower part of our anatomy. This will strengthen the legs too, but what gets a lot into the shoulders and throughout the torso. In this position, you're going to hold, you'll notice you'll start to shake. The body will start to fatigue. When that happens, just lower the knees down. Now coming into something called the Sphinx pose. Oh, I love this. You get a nice stretch for the front of the spine. And we're going to come up to stand. You can actually do another more forearm planks if you want. I'm going to press myself up into the table. Again, a little more strength on the arms. You could come in through down dog, or you can step the left leg forward, and I'm curling the back toes in. I'm coming up into a high lunge again. A little harder when you come up from the ground. I take my arms up. I'm right back like we did on the other side. Now we're doing the second side. I'm going to take my right hand down on the inside of the left leg, and I take my other arm will come on top of my right twist. And I'm I'm going to bring my hand down the inside of the leg and lower the back knee gently down, coming into the low lunge. Don't be afraid to linger here a while. This is a very important stretch for the front of the hips. Maybe one of the biggest problem areas for most people in our modern world. Don't be afraid of holding this long, even stopping the video and holding these postures. The more time you spend sitting, the more time you need to do this pose. But for time's sake, I'm coming back to the table and I'm gonna go back. We're gonna head back to child's pose. Some people may want to add downward dog. So the first thing with down dog is it's hard on the hands. So I'm pressing into my fingers. I'm gonna exaggerate it by lifting my heels of my hands up, and I'm gently gonna place them down. So they're gently placed into the ground. I'm gonna curl my toes in. I'm gonna reach my fingers forward. My thighs press back. My hands press down. My hips lift up, the opposition. And if you're first down dog, I like to pedal one leg out at a time. Just stretching the back of the legs. So depending on how much you want to hold this, how healthy your hands and shoulders are, if they're not, I'm going to lower down. I'm going back to the child's pose. And you can take your break here and then come back up and do another down dog. If your shoulder's hurting, forearm plank. And then you could, so you can make this practice your own. I'm going to come to sit. I'm going to take my legs out in front of me here. So again, I want my ears, shoulders, hips in a line. I'm pressing my legs down. I'm pressing my hands down. I'm lifting my chest up. I should have been on the other side. Okay, I'm just going to switch my legs around and do the opposite leg first, coming into a stretch for the back of the legs. I'm going to take my leg in. I'm going to bring my foot into the inner thigh. I usually do right leg first, so I'm reversing this. I'm going to take the arm. See, my hips kind of turned out to the side, so I want to turn my shoulders and hips to face the other side. I reach my arm into the inside of the leg or foot. The other arm comes to the outside. I lengthen. I keep trying to keep the back flat. I have to keep emphasizing that. You'll get so much more out of it with the back straight. You really want to lengthen your spine, like I'm trying to reach my head to my lower leg, like the shin or the ankle. I know it's not going to touch, but think of moving, getting that much length in the spine. I'm going to walk my hands back up. I take my leg up and straighten both legs out. It's really critical to get length into the spine. People want to round in this position, so I'm coming to the second side. You notice I kind of turned my back to you. I want to turn my torso, so I come the other way. I twist, like it's a slight twist. I bring my hand onto the leg or to the foot, whichever is comfortable. Again, starting with comfort. And eventually you can come in deeper. Then lengthen your spine, trying to get your spine to reach out more. This is Janu Shirshasana. I don't want to tell people the name because the tendency is to round in this pose. And I want you to think of this as head to shin pose. Like you want to put your head on the top of your foot. Almost sounds impossible, and it probably is. But just a movement how you want to lengthen yourself. And I'm coming back up, just walking my hands back up, taking both legs back out in front. Again, I'm going to turn the opposite way. I'm going to take my left leg in. I bring in my foot right by the hip. There's like a good hand's distance between my feet. I lengthen my spine upward, and this is a yoga pose in itself. But we're going to move into a second posture. As this pose can come in, you can round and come forward. I'm going to move into another twist, another rotation. So I'm turning myself towards you. I take my opposite arm around the leg and I twist. Now you can go a lot deeper with this, but for today, for time's sake, only going to come here. You want to think of getting your opposite rib onto the outside of the leg. Yeah, sounds hard. But that's what you got to think of. Then you can start to come into deeper variations of this. I'm going to release. I'm going to come to the second side, moving a little bit quicker, but I'm still not rushing through this, lengthening my spine up. That's the key. Once I get the length into the spine, then I come into the twist. And coming out slowly, I'm going to come onto my back. I'm going to come into a bridge pose. You're welcome to do whatever chest opening exercise we call back bends, extensions of the spine. Some people might prefer that. I'm lowering onto my back. I want my feet under my knees, so if you could just barely touch your heels, that's about the right position. If it's too much, you just walk your feet further away. I'm going to draw my belly in so it's like really, it's called a pelvic tilt. I'm lifting my tailbone up. My bottom rib and my hips come closer together, and I lift my hips up, coming into what we call a bridge. So my lower back is lengthening. So if this is uncomfortable, like I said, you could walk your feet further away or just come out altogether. But very important, it strengthens the muscles in the lower back. This can be a very therapeutic pose if done correctly. And I'm going to lower down. As I lifted my tailbone up first this time, I want my tailbone to come down last. And I'm going to show a deeper variation of this. So again, you bring your feet in, and believe me, this goes on and on. You can just stay in this pose and become very intense posture. I'm keeping it mellow for myself. I'm going to interlock my fingers. See, I'm getting my upper left arm underneath me. I interlock my fingers, and I get my upper right arm underneath me, which is lifting my torso up higher. You're just breathing here. You really want to be relaxed, be comfortable. This is not a place to really feel exertion. As you relax, the body will open up. And I'm going to lower down, and I'm going to start doing some what I call counter poses and something to balance to relieve any stress, just in case if you did go a little bit too much into this, that you can wind this out a little bit. First thing I'm making my feet really wide, almost wider than my mat, and then dropping my knees side to side, like a windshield wiper on the bus. It feels really good if I wake up in the morning, I did too much back bending and I'm a little bit stiff. I start off with this and I go through these next postures that we're going to do. And usually my back feels a lot better. So I'm going to come to center. I'm going to lift my feet up, bringing my knees over my hips. I've learned to resist the tendency to bring my knees in as far as I can. I just roll around on my lower back like a little massage. And then I'm going to straighten my left leg. Now I start to bring my right knee in just a little bit more. I don't want to go from bending my spine backwards a lot which I wasn't, but to rounding it all the way, all in one step. This is the main stretch for the lower back and hips. I just gently, every breath, I'm bringing my knee in just a little bit further. And then I'm going to switch legs, straightening the right leg and bring my left leg in. Again, slow, step by step, I'm slowly coming into the full round or flexion of my spine. I don't like doing it from one extreme to the other. I've done it, and for most of us, it's going to be okay. And I'm going to bring both legs in. And now I'm coming in a little bit deeper into the round. And then I'm going to come to twisting. I'm going to drop my knees all the way over to my right side as my left shoulder reaches in the opposite direction. I'm using my right hand to help bring the left hip over the right and bring my knees together. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to go to the other side. This time my right hip comes over the left, my right shoulder reaches to the ground, and my left hand is drawing the knees towards the ground. And I'm coming back up. Now maybe I'll squeeze in as much as I can. as I'm preparing for my resting pose. I squeeze, I tighten everything up, and then I let everything go. Let my legs, my arms, my face, everything relax. So I recommend staying here for at least 5 minutes, 10, even 15, as long as you can. Bye now, have a great day.